Hey guys, today we're going to be talking about some technology, innovation that allow for better navigation. This navigational technology was helpful for the Silk Road, for trans-Saharan travel, for Indian Ocean travel certainly, and especially when we get to the age of European exploration where we've got the Portuguese, the Dutch, the British, everyone's out there sailing, trying to find routes to Asia. Okay, so with that being said, let's figure out how it works. All right, so they had technology. We've talked about things like the astrolabe, and we've mentioned things like the cross staff, a sextant. But how do these things work? They all have the same general concept in mind. So here's our North Star. Whoop! Right there, the star is actually in the north. That's the North Star. Now they call it the North Star because it never moves. Unlike other stars, planets, constellations, this thing doesn't change its position, right? It's always in the north. Okay, so when we think of like the globe, right, and our axis, the axis of our planet points pretty much right at the North Star, so it's always in the north. Now, how do we find the North Star? Doesn't do you any good if you don't know which one is the North Star. So over here, I drew for you the Big Dipper. Now, it's not perfectly to scale, but it's pretty darn close, right? So here's the Big Dipper, and if you follow the front of the pan, right, it draws pretty much a straight line to the North Star. So now we know where the North Star is, so that's north. But that alone doesn't help, right? A compass could tell you that, and that doesn't help you know where you're going. So that's where the sextant or the cross staff really become important. So let me show you more about that. Okay, so how do these things work? Let's start with some of the technologies. I'm going to use something called a sextant first. All right, so what I did is I just took some string, a binder clip, protractor, an empty old pen, and I'm going to show you how this works. Now, this would have been a technology from ancient times even, right? The Arabs would have had this technology. It was dabbled with even in kind of the classic Mediterranean world. So check this out. The closer I am to my North Star, so here's my North Star. The closer I am to that North Star, the wider my angle is going to be. And what I mean by that is, so here's my angle, my angle, it's about 55 degrees, right, that I'm looking up to the North Star. So when I'm close to it, it's up higher, right? So that's 55 degrees. If I stand in the back of my room over here, right, I look at the North Star from here, I'm a pretty tall guy, and I look at that, I mean, that's 10. Guys, that's 10 degrees. So it's changed 45 degrees roughly from my room, from very steep to almost non-existent. That's latitude, right? We're at 55 degrees north latitude in the front of the room. The further north I am, right, the higher that degree between horizon and the North Star. In the back of the room, the North Star appears to be closer to the horizon because I'm further away. And because of the curvature of the Earth, that it's actually starting to hide behind the curvature of the Earth. So, what's the point? Well, explorers then could make easier versions. So here's my cross staff. This is a later design, right? The Portuguese were pretty famous for using cross staffs. Same thing, right? I line up my flat end to the horizon, and then I match my top point to the North Star, right about there, and then I measure my angle. That looks like probably about 15 degrees, 20 degrees roughly. Bang. Now I know where I am on the globe, right? So now I know if I'm far north or if I'm farther south. That's huge, right? Think of how important that is as an explorer, as a traveler. If I'm traveling through the desert and I don't have mountains or trees or a coastline to follow, just endless sand, if I can find that North Star, I know how far north or south. All right, so if I know the city that I'm trying to get to and its relative latitude, I can follow, right, the sky in essence. So think of somebody like Columbus. Columbus was not an idiot. He was a jerk and he was other things, but he wasn't so much of an idiot. He had a cool idea. So he knew that the places in China and India that he wanted to get to were like 25 degrees, 20 degrees north latitude. He knew that, right? So he had this knowledge. So he had this idea. What if I sail out into the ocean and I just maintain 20 degrees north the entire time, right? So he sailed and every day he was doing this and checking that and checking that. And if it got a little bit too wide, he knew he was too far north. If it got a little bit too flat, he was too far south. He just maintained. and he would have done it. It would have worked, right? He was sailing in the right direction to eventually hit China or India. What he didn't know is that the Earth was like way bigger than he thought, and the fact that there was like land masses between Europe and Asia, like the Americas. But the idea was right. This kind of technology is a game changer. Not only is it a blending of cultures, things from the ancient world and the Arab world, and using a compass maybe to help you find it. Europeans improved on these technologies. So it's cultural diffusion, it's innovation, but it's also the thing that's going to allow people to traverse and navigate accurately out in the seas when they don't have a coastline to follow. So imagine how this changes travel in the Indian Ocean and eventually exploration of the New World. Something so simple, but it's so darn cool. There you go. Thank you, North Star and the Big Dipper, for featuring in today's video. To help better illustrate the importance of the North Star for navigation, let's take a look at this clip. Okay, so what we've got here is I'm going to put, oh look at, there's the North Star right here in this image, right? It's the only part not rotating. So this is time-lapsed, obviously. So in the span of the night, right, the Earth is rotating. Our axis is aiming right at the North Star, and so that's why that's not moving, because it's right above that axis. And so that's the North Star. All these other stars and constellations throughout the night appear to move, although we know it's just the fact that we are rotating on our axis. Okay, and so that's why the North Star is so vitally important when it comes to navigating at night, right? Because it's a nice stagnant point in the sky. So same thing here, right? If we watch this clip, everything looks like it's moving, but when you look at the North Star stays stagnant in this location here, right? So if you find the North Star, it's a true point. It's an unwavering point, a constant in the night sky. So then you measure the angle between that and the horizon, right? So if you were traveling, you could measure from here to there, take a look at that angle, right? So if you had like a chance to use a sextant or something and measure that out, oh, so this looks like maybe about 40 degrees, so it means about 40 degrees north latitude, which is pretty close. This is Northern California, and so it works out. All right, so that's how you do it. Now, I am going to show you one last little bit when it comes to something like Orion, so stay tuned. All right, so let's look at one last thing here. So I know if some of you might be like me and go, all right, well, that's great. So if you're in the northern hemisphere on a clear night, you can see the North Star, you can tell your latitude. But what about people who are further to the south and don't have a great view at the North Star? You can use other constellations. That's the beauty of the night sky. Depending on where you are, you've always got some vantage point of something. So the astrolabe, which the Arab world used much more commonly, again, note it's further southern position along, kind of the tropics and down into Africa. It would make sense that they would also use other constellations. So, for example, Orion is a popular constellation to use. Right? So we're going to look at Orion here. So there is Orion, right? There's the three stars that make up the belt of Orion. It's kind of like an hourglass shape, for the main body of the hunter Orion. Sometimes these were referred to as the three sisters, but notice in the eastern nighttime sky, right? So down low, right, it's going to start to creep up, and then, as we're rotating, look at in the southern sky, kind of in the middle of the night, and then getting closer, to the horizon in the western sky, it starts to tip almost like flat or level, and it even kind of rotates past level and then disappears in the west, right? And so the point there is astrolabes used other things in the sky as a possible guiding post to let you know roughly which direction you were in. Okay, so just like we know today, when it's winter time, the sun sits lower in the sky, right? We have fewer hours of daylight. The same is true elsewhere, right? Our ability to see certain constellations comes and goes with the seasons. And so with an astrolabe and some knowledge of the seasons and your general location before you begin to travel, right, you can have just about all the knowledge you need in the world. For example, even the ancient Egyptians, way back when they decided where to build their pyramids, had an understanding of even down to the hour when the star Sirius would finally break over the horizon and into sight, right? So just basic knowledge of those things, all of a sudden, with some better technology and tools and some cultural diffusion and sharing of ideas, explorers, travelers were way more well-equipped to safely and accurately traverse the globe. Thanks for watching.